The Grand Hall of the Galactic Senate was silent. Over 50 alien races sat at long silver tables, their eyes locked on the main entrance. The air was heavy with fear and suspicion. They had been fighting for centuries, and this was the last chance for peace. Everyone was waiting for the human diplomat, but no one expected what walked through those doors. The tall human stepped in calmly, wearing a black suit and a strange half-smile, but all eyes were drawn to the person behind him. It was not an assistant, not a translator, not a tech officer. It was a human bodyguard, dressed in full black armor, silent, still, and expressionless. No weapons could be seen on him, but everyone felt the danger. A whisper moved through the hall. "Why did he bring a human guard?" someone hissed. "It's against protocol," another grumbled. Weapons were not allowed in this room, but somehow no one dared to stop him. The bodyguard stood at the back of the hall, arms behind his back, not blinking, not moving. A Varnak general leaned forward and chuckled. "Earth sends a pet warrior," he said loud enough for others to hear. "Looks more like a statue," a Sketh diplomat added. But none of the laughter reached the human's ears. Or maybe he just didn't care. The human diplomat stepped forward, his voice clear and smooth. "I come with a message of peace," he said, "and a warning." That last word made several leaders shift in their seats. "A warning?" one of them growled. "Are you threatening the council?" The diplomat smiled again, calm, quiet, but firm. "No," he said. "I'm simply explaining that Earth values peace. So much, we sent him." He pointed to the bodyguard. All eyes turned again, but the figure didn't react. He didn't blink, didn't look, didn't even breathe. At least it seemed that way. Some council members began to sweat. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Machines nearby started to glitch. Translation devices sparked, lights flickered, and AI drones froze mid-air. A nervous senator activated a silent scanner under his desk. The data came back red. Unreadable energy signature detected. He tried again. The scanner shut down. The system rebooted itself and erased the scan log. Nothing like this had ever happened inside the council hall, ever. Back in the hall, a few bold guards stepped forward toward the human bodyguard. "Escort him out," one alien whispered to them. As the guards came closer, the human slowly turned his head, just a small movement. But the guards stopped walking. One dropped his weapon, his hands shaking. The other took a step back without realizing it. No words were spoken, no threat was made. But every alien in the room felt something ancient and powerful stir in the air. A rumor started spreading fast. Some recognized the man, or thought they did. Old generals from the border colonies spoke his name with fear. "He was in the Earth Wars," one said. "He walked alone into a battlefield and no one came out alive, except him." "His name is Silas," another whispered. "He's one of the Quiet Ones." The Quiet Ones. A secret group believed to be Earth's hidden weapons. No one had proof they existed. Until now, the council leader slammed his hand on the table. "This meeting is suspended," he shouted, but the human diplomat calmly stepped forward. "We haven't started yet," he said. "Don't be afraid. Unless you're planning to start another war." His eyes scanned the room slowly, stopping at the Varnak general who mocked earlier. The general looked away. Silas, the human bodyguard, didn't speak, didn't move. But he had already said enough without words. The message was clear. Earth came in peace, but peace had a price, and the price was him. Outside the hall, a message was sent to the Varnak fleet orbiting the moon, PO. "Mission to strike," it read. The response came quickly. Approved. The war had just started and Earth had already ended it. They just didn't know yet. Part 2. Whisper of the Past. The council chamber emptied quickly. Alien leaders rushed back to their ships, their faces pale and voices low. But the real storm was not in the hall. It was in the shadows. Old generals and spies met in hidden corners. They didn't speak aloud. They whispered. They whispered a name they had buried deep in fear. "Silas." "Are you sure it's him?" one asked, shaking. "He's supposed to be dead," said another. "No," the old Zarn warlord replied. "If that was Silas, we are already too late." Far away, on a cold moon base, a dusty file blinked to life. Project Silence, top secret, Earth clearance level Omega. A soldier with no record, no family, no weakness, born not in hospitals, but in silence and steel, trained in zero-gravity jungles, mind-tested in black AI labs, built for one purpose: to end wars, not fight them. Silas was the last one, and he was supposed to be locked away after the Great Uprising. But now he stood beside a diplomat in a peace hall, and the galaxy panicked. In the Varnak war room, the generals screamed at each other. "That thing is not a bodyguard," one shouted. "He's a threat to all life," another yelled. "He must be destroyed before the second meeting." They didn't wait. A shadow unit of elite hunters was activated. The Vornis 6, 6 killers, each one deadly, invisible, and fast. They had ended kings, burned planets, and erased names from history. Now they had a new target: kill the human. The Vornis 6 landed silently near the Galactic Council dome, cloaked in tech that bent light and sound. They moved like ghosts, leaving no trace. Silas stood in the hallway outside the human diplomat's room, still, quiet, unarmed. The Vornis split into formation, surrounding him in seconds. One gave the signal. They struck at once. 6 perfect attacks from all sides, but nothing landed. In less than a blink, they all on the ground, weapons shattered, armor cracked. Their cloaks fizzled, revealing their twisted limbs. One tried to crawl away, but a gentle boot pressed on his back, not crushing, not harming, just reminding him, "Don't move." Silas didn't speak. He simply looked at them, and they broke. Not their bones, their minds. They had trained for every alien threat, but not for him. Their programming screamed to escape, but their bodies refused. Fear held them like chains. A security drone saw the scene and froze. Its system tried to record but failed. Memory wiped, camera burned. When backup arrived, the only thing left was 6 motionless bodies and a silent man still standing with arms behind his back. The news spread like plasma fire. The Vornis 6, gone in seconds. No alarms, no wounds, no blood. Just defeat, clean and cold. Inside the human diplomat's quarters, Silas entered quietly. The diplomat looked up from a datapad and nodded. "No problems?" Silas shook his head once. "Good," the diplomat said, smiling softly. "They're testing us." Back in the Varnak warship, a general received the report and slammed his fist on the console. "This is a declaration of war," he growled, but another whispered, "Or a warning." Meanwhile, in the archives of an old planet forgotten by many, a historian woke from sleep. He had heard the name Silas once before, in a story his grandfather told, a story of a battlefield covered in fire, where a lone human walked through lasers, bombs, and screams, and when it was over, nothing moved but him. That story was not fiction, it was history, and history had just returned across the galaxy. Messages buzzed in secret channels. Earth has released the Silent One. Do not provoke, do not engage. But pride is a dangerous thing, and some believed Earth was bluffing. In a hidden war lab, the Varnak prepared something ancient, opitei, weapon forbidden even by their own laws. "If we cannot kill him from the outside," the lead scientist said, "then we must break him from within." They didn't know. Silas had no within, only purpose, only silence, only war, and the clock was ticking. Next session began in 12 hours, and the council still believed they were in control. They weren't. They never were. The next morning, the second peace session began on the upper deck of the council dome. The chairs were arranged in a perfect circle, shining under the blue light of the skylands above. Representatives from across the stars entered with stiff faces and silent steps. No one made jokes, no one whispered. Everyone remembered what had happened the night before. And yet, he stood there again. Silas, the human bodyguard. Same position, same posture, same cold silence. But now, the fear in the room had a shape. It looked like him. From the far end of the chamber, the Varnak Supreme Commander arrived. His name was Vectora. He was nearly 7 feet tall, his skin like molten gold and his teeth jagged with pride. He walked with the arrogance of someone who had never been defeated. He sat down slowly, turned his head, and looked directly at Silas. "You," he said, his voice deep and sharp, "you are the cause of all this." Silas didn't react, not a blink, not a twitch, only stillness. Vectora leaned forward, a smile curling across his face. I have seen humans scream in cages, he said, louder now so the room could hear. I've watched your kind burn in battlefields begging for mercy. Silas did nothing. The commander stood up, pointing his clawed hand. You are not a warrior, he said, his voice now full of anger. You are a toy. Earth sends to scare children. The council chamber fell silent. Even the lights seemed to dim. The diplomat stayed seated, his expression unchanged. Only Silas moved. Slowly, he tilted his head. Then, for the first time in front of everyone, he smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't cruel. It was a small, calm smile. But it entered the room. The translator units flickered. Datapads glitched. AI security bots began rebooting themselves without command. And on the Varnak commander's wrist, his personal defense shield short-circuited with a loud snap. The commander froze. He didn't understand what had happened, but something deep inside him whispered, danger. That single smile was not just a reaction, it was a message. It said, I heard you, and also, you don't matter. The diplomat stood now, his voice smooth. We came to talk peace, he said. But if you want something else, just say it. He looked at the commander. We do not bring threats, he continued. We bring reminders. His hand pointed at Silas again, somewhere outside the chamber. On the high orbit around the council moon, 3 Varnak scout ships detected an anomaly. Something moved past them. Fast, silent, invisible to normal radar. Their systems recorded one blink of energy, then darkness. 3 ships went offline in the same second. No weapons fired, no explosions seen. Inside the chamber, a Sketh observer stood up. We just lost contact with 3 scout ships, he announced, his voice trembling. They were Varnak. Vectora's face turned pale. No, he said, shaking his head. This is impossible. He turned toward Silas again, but Silas was gone. His spot was empty. The bodyguard had vanished. Security alarms failed to trigger. Sensors showed nothing. But then, just behind the Varnak commander, Silas appeared again. No one saw him move. He was simply there, standing just 2 steps behind the commander, silent as death. Vectora didn't move. He couldn't. His muscles locked in place, his skin cold. He could feel breath on his neck, but not air. Presence, a crushing pressure without touch. This is what happens when Earth remembers. Silas leaned forward. He whispered something. No one else heard it. But the commander fell to his knees, not from pain, from something else. Fear, real fear. Silas returned to his place at the edge of the chamber. The diplomat cleared his throat. The meeting will now continue, he said calmly. And not a single soul objected. Back in Varnak territory, fleets began to move. They weren't preparing for war. They were evacuating, pulling ships back from borders, closing off jump gates, retreating, because one smile had done what centuries of negotiation could not. It broke the illusion that Earth was weak. It reminded them, humanity is not here to fight. They are here to finish. And Silas was only the beginning. It started with silence. The kind of silence that comes right before a storm. On the edge of the galaxy, above the peaceful glow of the council moon, something shifted. A ripple in the dark, a whisper in space. Then came the flash. 20 Varnak warships uncloaked above the moon, heavily armed, full force, battle-ready. They hovered like giant metal beasts, covering the sky with glowing shields and humming cannons. No warning, no message, just the cold signal of war. Inside the council dome, red lights lit the chamber. Emergency alarms echoed across the halls. Delegates stood up in panic, voices overlapping. The Varnak are attacking, someone shouted. They've lost their minds, another screamed. The human diplomat remained seated, unmoved. Calm, only his eyes turned toward the ceiling. He tapped his earpiece. Status, he said. A quiet voice replied. Visual confirmed, sir. Proceed, the diplomat answered. That was all, just one word. Proceed. The chamber lights flickered. Outside, the sky above the dome darkened as the Varnak ships began to charge their main weapons. Power readings spiked across all sensors. Fighters launched from hangar bays like angry hornets. The war had officially begun. Alien leaders ran to their ships, guards scrambled, shields activated, and Silas, the human bodyguard, stepped forward, just once. He placed 2 fingers on the side of his neck. A faint click sounded like a whisper in metal. Then he vanished. No flash, no teleport sound, just gone. Up in orbit, the first Varnic cruiser locked onto the Council dome. A giant beam charged to full power. Inside the ship, Varnac warriors shouted in their native tongue, ready to fire. Then, everything stopped. The lights inside the ship dimmed, control panels froze, weapons shut down mid-charge, and across the bridge, all crew members fell silent. A figure appeared at the center of the command deck. Silas. He didn't run, didn't shout, didn't even lift a hand. He simply looked at the captain, and the captain, a hardened war veteran who had survived 100 battles, dropped his weapon. The ship powered down, its engines shut off, drifting without control, one down. In the next 30 seconds, Silas moved through 5 more ships, never seen, never stopped. Each ship died the same way. Quiet, fast, clean, no bodies, no damage, just silence and shutdown. The remaining Varnac ships opened fire in fear, not at Earth, not at Silas, just at the dark, hoping to hit something. Their beams hit nothing, and then they too began to fail. One by one their systems crashed, their crews froze, their weapons melted. No explosions, no counterattack, only one human, and total collapse. Back on the moon, alien senators watched the sky turn from war bright to calm black. Sensors showed nothing moving. No ships, no fighters, no signs of battle, just debris slowly drifting like leaves on water. Time, the human diplomat asked. His assistant replied, 2 minutes, 51 seconds. The diplomat smiled lightly. Well, he said, under 3 minutes. Silas reappeared beside him, silent, unharmed. His armor didn't have a scratch. His eyes were unreadable. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. The Varnac Supreme Commander received the footage inside his flagship. He watched it once, then again. Then he stood up and ordered full retreat. This is not war, he said. This is extinction. Across the galaxy, the message spread. 20 warships gone. No explosions, no casualties. Just defeat, delivered by a single human. Alien news channels didn't know what to call it. Some said Earth had built a god. Others said it was ancient forbidden tech. A few whispered the old stories about humans who didn't fight wars. They ended them. Inside the Council dome, no one argued anymore. The peace treaty was signed in less than 5 minutes. Every race agreed. No conditions, no questions. Only one rule added to the Galactic Code. Never provoke Earth. And Silas stood beside the diplomat, not a soldier, not a weapon, just a reminder. They called him a bodyguard. They thought he was just another human soldier, but after the war ended in under 3 minutes, the galaxy began to ask the real question, what is Silas? In hidden systems far from the Council's light, ancient data archives began blinking open. One by one, forbidden files were accessed, not by aliens, but by humans themselves. Not by politicians, but by engineers. They were watching and they were measuring inside Earth's secret facility, buried under the ice of Europa's dead ocean. Red lights blinked softly. A woman in a black coat walked into a frozen chamber, walls covered with screens and holograms. Each screen showed the same name, Silas 01, operational. She placed her hand on a scanner. A voice asked her code. Dr. Evelyn Hart, she replied, level Omega access. The doors opened. Inside was a steel room, dark, cold, quiet. On the far wall was a single sentence in faded white letters. Peace is the result of perfect fear. Evelyn stood still, eyes locked on a video playing before her. It showed Sci, lost standing on a Varnac ship. No weapons, no movement, no effort, just silence. An entire fleet shutting down around him. A soft voice behind her asked, was it necessary to release him? She turned and looked at the man beside her. He wore the mark of Earth's Shadow Division. No, she said, but it was time. He nodded slowly. Then the galaxy finally knows, he whispered, that Earth no longer makes weapons. She replied, Earth becomes them. Years ago, before Silas ever stood in a chamber or walked beside a diplomat, he was not a soldier. He was an experiment, part of Project Silence, the final response to alien threats after the second interstellar siege. Project Silence was not about building weapons. It was about building warnings, a message written in flesh, metal, and something far older, something no one could explain because Silas was not just enhanced, he was rebuilt. His brain was part biological, part synthetic, but the synthetic wasn't from Earth. It was harvested from a dead alien ship found drifting near a black hole. Tech that Earth never understood, but copied anyway. It bonded with Silas in ways no scientist expected. He became quiet, too quiet. His body needed no sleep. His heart rate dropped to almost zero when still. His presence could shut down lower-level machines just by standing near them. His mind learned how to predict battle movements seconds before they happened. His muscles adjusted mid-strike, adapting instantly to threats. He didn't need to fight. He ended things. Back on the council moon, the news had spread. Delegates now refused to look directly at him. Security drones kept their distance. Even the lights above Silas dimmed slightly when he walked under them. Not by command, by instinct. Some whispered he had no soul. Others believed he was the soul of Earth's pain. A living answer to the galaxy's cruelty. The Varna Empire had officially retreated, but underground channels told a different story. Some of their scientists had begun working on something desperate, not a weapon, a mirror. They believed if Earth could build such a thing, so could they, but they didn't understand Silas wasn't built. He survived. His past was still unknown, records erased, birthplace deleted, family gone. What remained was a man with no fear, no hesitation, and no limits. The diplomat stood at the edge of the council dome looking into the stars. Silas stood beside him, as always silent. The diplomat finally asked, "Do you feel anything?" Silas did not reply. A long pause filled the air. Then, a whisper. Only when they stopped trying, the diplomat smiled faintly. They never learn. In orbit, another Varnak probe tried to scan him. Its system caught fire and shut down in 3 seconds. Galactic networks debated endlessly. Who was Silas? What was Earth hiding? Would they release another if challenged? Or was he the only one? Back in the Europa lab, Dr. Evelyn Hart typed a new command. A screen lit up with a new label, Silas-02. Warming up. She looked out the glass into another chamber. A second figure stood in the shadows, not awake, not alive, yet the warning was never meant to be loud. It was meant to be simple, clear, and unforgettable. This is what happens when Earth answers. The council chamber had never been this quiet. Not after a war, not after a tragedy, not even after the fall of Sector 9. But today, silence was heavier than gravity, and it stood in the center of the room. Silas, the man who ended a war in under 3 minutes. The man who turned fleets into drifting wreckage, and now, the man who spoke. No one knew why he chose this moment. Not the diplomats, not the humans, not even the council leaders. But when he stepped forward, everyone stopped breathing. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout. His tone was calm, like soft thunder rolling through a metal hall, but it reached every ear, across every species, as if the walls themselves repeated his words. "I am not here to protect," he said. "I am here to remind." One sentence, and entire galaxies paused. The Varnak ambassador dropped his data pad. The Sketh Empress blinked twice, her eyes filled with something close to fear. The translators stopped functioning. But it didn't matter. Everyone understood him. Every race, every language, one voice, one meaning, Silas continued. "You offered peace with blades behind your backs. You spoke of unity while preparing betrayal. You forgot what humans are." The diplomat stood beside him, arms crossed, face unreadable. He didn't interrupt. This moment didn't belong to him. It belonged to the ghost in black armor. Silas stepped forward once more. The air itself seemed to tighten. No one dared speak, not even the council leader. "I am not a weapon," Silas said. "I am what happens after weapons fail." Behind him, screens lit up. Not by command, but by presence. They showed the wreckage of Varnak ships, footage of systems crashing, warriors kneeling, and then a single still image. Silas standing alone, surrounded by silence. Then came the sentence that changed history. "There will be no more threats," he said, "or there will be no more galaxies." A pulse of energy moved through the hall, not a bomb, not a shock wave, just a signal, silent and invisible. Yet it crashed every scanning device in a 100-mile radius. Silas said nothing more. He turned and walked back to his place beside the diplomat, and still, no one moved. Finally, the council leader stood, his hands shaking. Is this Earth's final answer?" The diplomat looked at him and gave a soft smile. No, he said. This is Earth's first warning. Across the stars, governments panicked. Emergency meetings were called. Leaders demanded new defense systems. Armies were told to stand by. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. It wouldn't matter, because Silas had spoken, and now the galaxy remembered what true fear was. News spread in hours. Even in outlaw zones where law didn't reach, the message arrived. Pirates stopped raids. Slave traders vanished. Weapons markets burned their stock. No one wanted to be next, but not everyone bowed. In a dark part of the galaxy, something stirred. A hidden group of alien scientists watched the recording of Silas again and again. One of them leaned forward and whispered, "He bleeds." Another answered, "Then he can be broken." They didn't believe in warnings. They believed in answers, and they were building one. Back on the council moon, the human diplomat and Silas prepared to leave. As their shuttle warmed up, a young alien child stepped out from the crowd. He had no translator, no guards, just wide eyes and shaking hands. He looked up at Silas. "Are you going to destroy us?" he asked, his voice small. Silas knelt down slowly. He looked into the child's eyes, and for the first time, he answered without coldness. "No," he said, "not if you remember." Then he stood, boarded the shuttle, and disappeared into the sky. The galaxy had its answer. Not through war, but through reminder, and the reminder had a name. Silas. Years passed, but the memory did not fade. Children on distant alien worlds whispered stories at night, stories of a man in black armor, a man who never spoke, a man who stopped an entire war in under 3 minutes. His name was Silas, but they called him other names now: the quiet storm, the peacebringer, the final warning. In classrooms, history teachers tried to explain what happened on the council moon. Some said he was Earth's ultimate weapon, Ut. Hers believed he was something more, a hybrid of flesh and forgotten tech, but none of them truly knew, because Silas had vanished. No trace, no signal, no sound. The human diplomat returned to Earth alone. He refused interviews. He refused medals. He only left one line behind. Silas was not Earth's answer, he said. He was the galaxy's question. Across the stars, new peace began. Old wars slowed. Borders softened. Alien empires once thirsty for expansion now paused and thought. One question sat in every council chamber. What if Earth sends another? But deep in the shadows, others were watching. In the cold dead zone beyond the fourth rim, a ship floated, old and black, no name, no flag. Inside it, 1,000 screens played one moment again and again. The moment Silas smiled. The beings inside were not Varnak, not Sketh, not human. They had no names, only numbers. They were ancient, forgotten even by their creators, and they studied. "This is the apex," one of them said, "their perfect instrument of fear." Another replied, "No, this is only the first." They were not afraid, they were curious. They believed in testing strength, and they had decided Earth must be tested. Back on Europa, beneath frozen oceans, Dr. Evelyn Hart stood before a row of sealed chambers. Each one contained something still, sleeping, waiting. She opened a file. Silas 03. Inactive. Silas 04. Locked. Silas 05. Breathing, she whispered. The galaxy thought one was enough. She turned to a console and typed in a command: run sim, event, unknown, extraterrestrial threat. The screen displayed a simulation, an alien fleet 10 times larger than the Varnak Armada. Earth's defenses fell, one by one, until a black figure appeared at the edge of the map. The simulation paused. "Activate response?" the computer asked. Evelyn stared at the screen, then she answered, "No. Not yet." On the outer colonies, children drew pictures of Silas in their school books. Some drew him standing before fire. Some drew him holding back entire planets. And one child, on a forgotten mining world, drew him holding hands with a small alien child. Smiling, his teacher looked at the drawing and asked, "Do you know who that is?" The child nodded. "Yes, that's the man who saved everyone." The galaxy moved on. Trade resumed, alliances rebuilt. But beneath the surface, fear remained, and that fear kept peace alive longer than any treaty ever could. On a quiet hill overlooking a broken moon, a traveler once claimed he saw him again, just standing, looking up at the stars, armor dark, eyes calm, waiting. He tried to speak to him, but Silas only said one thing: "They'll return." Then he disappeared into the wind, no ship, no sound, just gone. So now when threats rise, when fleets gather, when alien leaders speak too boldly, there is always someone who says, "Do not forget the man Earth sent. Do not forget the 3-minute war. Do not forget what happens when Earth gets quiet." Because somewhere out there, Silas is still watching, still waiting, and maybe, just maybe, he won't come alone next time.